One Take Wine, welcome back. It's part two of Dow's Vintage, 24 vintages from 1890 to 1997. And we're in the second and probably the most interesting portion of this little tasting, and that would be the older vintages. I'm going to skip right to the end on this one. I'm just going to say that after this session, we were all in awe. We were in awe at being in the presence of so many fantastic wines in such great shape. None of the second session wines were flawed. I mean, sure, you felt the age on some of them, and 3 days later, I'm not expecting all of them to sort of be in the very best shape that they could possibly be, but at the same time, why not? I think it's pretty exciting to taste session two. Why don't we just jump right in? First wine. Let's take a look. Now you can see the wines are all brown, different shades of brown, sherry colored. And I would say that, it makes for a beautiful table. Fantastic nose on this wine. Still lots of depth to it. A bit of tomato in a way, tomato soup, which I never kind of picked up on in the first. I say tomato soup, but there's still the sweetness of the fruit. This has got a very plummy, liqueurish sweetness to it. That's how it starts. The second third, all the way through into the finish, is just about flourish, really. It's just a sort of a menthol kind of cleansing. Very clean, not as long as I thought. This is dark chocolate, a very dark chocolate. Still has tinges of red fruit to it. Finishes with a kind of it's a sneaky charm, you know what I mean? It's kind of like in and out, hiding behind rocks and popping out, and hiding behind rocks and popping out. Tea, lovely, persistent, not long, but what is there is great. I liked it very much. This was the 1958, and I wrote a bit spirity. I think that's tamed down a little bit. Menthol nose, and I think that comes through. Some apple, maybe high alcohol finish. That's tamed down. Great length with both persistence and drive. I think the persistence is there. The drive has kind of lost its way over the last 3 days. Not entirely unexpected, but pretty good wine. Kind of disappears a little. It's a little shorter than I gave it credit for in the first round. Again, 3 days later. Let's move on to wine two. What do we got in the glass? Ooh, a little darker, a little more caramelly maybe. This has got a bit more spirit to it. It's almost got an Armagnac feel to it because it has caramel notes. But, I mean, I'm an Armagnac fan. Number one, and number two, there is a tinge of the red fruit kind of hanging around and sort of making it interesting and sort of holding things together a little bit. Maybe not holding things together, but anchoring it. Wow, this has got a tea presence, very, very much tea. I love the length on this. It's much better than the 58. Much better. Wow. Really, really good. I mean, as well, too, because, and this doesn't happen very often, as that kind of finishes, you're paying attention to it, right? This mentholated, lifted finish and sort of making all kinds of fireworks and topsy-turvying through your palate. The front fruit, the stuff that came in right at the beginning, is so persistent. It sits so long right across the whole length. It sends a driving sort of seam right through the wine. Head-spinning wine, actually. I think it's fantastic. This is a very grown-up port. This is a port for the gentleman in the study cigar type thing. This was the 1952. Some orange depth, a refined nose, sweetened tea, less long than wine one, but cleansing finish anyway. And that is exactly the opposite of of what I'm experiencing today. This is 6 times as long as the first line, as the 1958. I much prefer the 1952 today. But I only gave it 15, and I gave the 1958 16, and today I would give the 52 17, and I would give the 58 14 and a half. So what do we got in the glass for wine number 3? That's maybe a little darker, a little red, a little more red than the previous 2, but still very brown. Lovely, very cheap. And very, one of those orange chocolate candies, the ones that are in sections, you get at Christmas. I think it's an English thing. There's a savoriness to this too, that just as I was lifting out to me, I just got hit with the craving for steak. Wow. Yeah, this is peppery, but also very strawberry. A gorgeous wine, another gorgeous one. I mean, it really? How is this possible? Has a almost malty caramel to it. In the mid palate especially, that sort of sits and pushes down and feels fantastic, And then finishes with a bit of bounce to it. I mean, there's a menthol, a very short menthol burst. It doesn't linger very long. I think it's a little too sweet in a way. It's almost like sweetened tea that's been, maybe an extra tablespoon of sugar in there than it should have. And at the same time, there's so much complexity on the back end. So much licorice, really. It's kind of doing somersaults and stuff. This is a very, very good wine. This is a remarkably sharp wine. I wrote burnt sugar and orange. I agree. I think burnt sugar is good. Darker, almost maple. Maple is good. Actually, it's a good note because that is what it is. There is this, when maple has this kind of serious darkness to it. It's very long, full, lots of tannin, and unholy length. The drive part of it, no. The persistence part of it, yes. And I think that's just the effect of being open a few days. It's not unexpected for a wine from 1960. I mean, I'm still tasting it now. It's still doing somersaults now. This is a good wine. Top score, 17 actually I gave it. What do we got in the glass? This is the 4th glass of session 2, of course. So that's 16th glass overall. Look at that color. You see that color? Yeah. There's a muddiness to this, to the color for sure. Maybe affected a little bit of my tasting, to a little bit of my perception of it. But there's something beetroot and yet, there's a chunk of chocolate in here. Cocoa, not chocolate, but real cocoa. And that mud has disappeared. There is a bit of acetone, a little bit of nail polish to it, but not in a pleasant way, because the sweetness really counterbalances it. There is still some, but the predominant thing is cocoa. It is dark chocolate. Wines like this, you just don't come across them. You just don't, it just never happens, I mean, I'm in the presence of greatness right now. I am. This is remarkable considering it's been 3 days. There's a certain delicacy to this as well. There's some caramel, but then there's also I hate to say it, but it's almost marine, fishy. That umami type depth that you get from seaweed. It's super smooth. It's super smooth. I think some people might find a little alcoholic on the fish. I don't. I find it long, complex. I think this is a serious wine, actually. Like I said, I think it's the presence of greatness. There's smokiness to it as well. Big boy pants again. Let me see what my note was here. Some chocolate earth. Yeah, almost mud really, especially visually. Vibrates and echoes. Yeah, maybe I should have mentioned that in this note. I mean, there's so much to it. And then on the finish, the way it gets so clean, the way it lifts itself. There's a great wine behind this curtain. Earthy, massive length, very chocolatey and composed. This is 3 days later. This is super. I gave it 18 points. And it is the second oldest, 1920. I don't have enough good things to say about this. Definitely a contender for a wine of the vintage, or of the tasting. Probably of the vintage too. It's refreshing. It's complex. I don't know what to say about a wine that can be 100 years old, open 4 days. And impressed me just as much as it did on day one. Wine number 5. What do we got in the glass? Giving it a good swirl. Look at that color. Beautiful. Another one that sort of reminds you of Armagnac or Cognac. Gorgeous nose. Gorgeous nose. There's rose water. There's roses and floral hints in this. There's a saline quality to it as well, like another marine type element like in the previous wine. The skunk is there. The skunk is there. There's no getting around that. Especially giving it a swirl. Tremendously complex nose. Almost celery root, you know, like a vegetable. That reminds me of. It reminds me of Palo Cortado. That's what it reminds me of. It's got the salinity and the kind of alcoholic finish, lengthy, very long. Also biscuity, super biscuity. And I always find that Palo Cortado is like biscuits. But there's a tinge of red fruit. So it's almost like you'd eaten butter biscuit with strawberry jam and had a glass of sherry with it, a glass of old Palo Cortado, you know, VORS, 30-year-old plus. This is amazing, actually. This is, it's marine, obviously, but also dessert-like, but also kind of serious. It finishes a little bit hot, but in the beginning, that nose, it's the biscuits, that sort of, you know, the cookies, wow, just wow. Ta-da. Also, a contender for presence of greatness, to be honest, in one way. Just, it's maybe a bit simple towards the finish. It gets a little too alcoholic towards the finish. Maybe that's the only thing that I would say gets in the way of it. But that alcohol finish is long, is so long. What do we got? This was actually the 1890. My guess was 1952. I was 62 years off. On the day, I wrote almost apple pie, caramel, delicious. Caramel, definitely, but I'm losing the apple thing. Reminiscent of very good old sherry. I think we've talked enough about that. And quite drying on the palate with average length. I was totally wrong about that. I think the length is long. I think it's an alcoholic length. So it's not my favorite style of length. But the marine element, I think, I didn't notice that. And I really appreciate the depth that brings to this wine. This is super complex. 1890 is 133 years old. This has been opened 3+ days, 3.5 days. I'm just going to say, hurrah. I mean, bravo. I mean, I expected that wine to be dead. When they invited me, they called it a once-in-a-lifetime tasting. I think this is a once-in-a-lifetime tasting. All right. Wine 6. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. What fruit. What complexity. What depth. This is fantastic. It finishes a little hot. It runs a little hot on the end. But boy, oh boy, the first 2/3 are, I mean, if it had finished a match, it would be an almost perfect wine, I have to say. This is tremendously good. Yeah, it is drying and on the finish. Biscuits and herbs and licorice and very, very long. Even if it is alcoholic, it's so long. Some orange liqueur in there. That's some, yeah, maybe a bit of tea as well. Something else. There is pipe tobacco. Lots of pipe tobacco in this. This is a really strong, complex wine, actually. 1929. What? Stop blowing my mind, man. 1929. And on the day I wrote some celery and Vicks on the nose. So I guess more acetone or medicinal. But that's kind of gone and just kind of smoothed out into this wonderful thing. Liqueurish, but still sweet and somewhat heady. Heady is an understatement. Less long and less complex, 15.5. I totally reversed that. I'm jumping this up to 17.5 right now. I think this is one of the most complex wines in this lineup. All right, I think we got to move on to a wine 7. This is a little more barnyard, actually. Barnyard and like a grilled cheese sandwich almost. Like Gruyere. But a lovely presence. I mean, you know, it comes in quite dark, coffee. And one of those finishes I like, you know, where the persistence lasts as long as the drive kind of thing. Even outlasting it a little. Gorgeous persistence in this. Gorgeous. It's not super driven, but it's driven enough that it lifts the wine. This is super balanced. I will be surprised if it's not a great vintage. Very chocolatey as well. 34. It's 1934. Very faint or delicate on the nose. Some biscuits, some strawberries. Strawberry, maybe a little less, but biscuit and creamy even. Yeah, absolutely. Persistence, no real drive. The drive came. Still very nice, 16. I would bump this up, 16.5, 17. At the same time, okay, all the elements there, all the building blocks are there, but it lacks a, maybe just a, you know, a je ne sais quoi. And I think that's probably got to do with having had some of these previous wines. But at the same time, are you kidding me? It's 1934. Again, another, you know, it's not 100, but 89 years old. I would certainly pick the 29 over the 34 if I had my druthers. It's a bit Foursquare. Yeah, Foursquare I think is the great one that describes this because it is a very like, and it kind of marches right down and does its thing, and then it's military almost, you know. It's a military port. All right, let's get into wine number 8. Look at that color. Wow. Quite spirity nose. But also a dusting of cocoa powder. Maybe a touch of cinnamon even. It's quite exotic. It's one of those wines that I mean, it's delicious. It's absolutely delicious. And then really it relies on its tannin to hold it up at the end. But this is what I mean about Dow's being quite a classy wine, because it does it in so many different ways, but it never leaves you like short. It never leaves you feeling like I cheated. All these wines are magnificent in their own right. Scoring them feels unfair, to be honest. There's a little spirity on the entry. Cherry, a combination of red cherry and strawberry. Fairly simple mid-palate. Not a lot going on, or if there is, nothing is really distinguishing itself. It's kind of melded together. And then a bit of a ho-hum finish in a way. I mean, it's a bit of, it's strong, it's long, it's fine, but it's not like, oh, you should check me out. I think the tannin sort of is the thing that I notice about this. I like it though. There's something about it that I would still buy, and it lingers on the sides, you know, this alcohol thing. Almost Christmas tree, piney. Wine 8. Oh, come on. Give me a break. Autumn, yes. Menthol, eucalyptus, absolutely. But high-toned and bordering on varnish. I think that's, it's high-toned. But I don't know about the varnish. Nice mid-palate, which is sort of subsided now. Saturates, sweet and strong, haunts the palate. And I like that description a little bit, because I think the tannin make it feel like things are happening after they're happening, which is very ghostly, which is haunting. So I mean, I think that's fine. And 1927. Come on, that doesn't taste like 1927. It feels like I don't know, 60s, 50s. I would never go in 1927. I just wouldn't. It's a remarkable wine, just like the other wines from the 1920s. 1920s were a remarkable, very good decade for Dow's, obviously. 9, wine number 9. This one's getting on the meatier side again. There's a little bit, but we're coming back into meat. Remember the meat from the earlier vintages? And some of the Christmas spice as well, I think. It's a good wine. There's a good wine in here. A titch of alcohol, I would say, mid-palate. And then it dies down towards the finish, to be honest, which dries out. The finish does dry out. But I like the ghostly, haunting finish, the more the lifted, the eucalyptus. It's from the alcohol, but the cleansing sort of finish to it is nice because it's super long and refreshing, which is nice in a sweeter wine. Yeah, very much on the jus side of thing, on the meat jus, the savory characteristics, and some herbs, thyme and those kinds of green, bitter, more bitter type of herb. And when I say these things, don't take them as negatives. It's a real McCoy. It's just a different wine. I think it's fabulous. I really enjoy it. I think it's a bit drying on the finish, a little hotter on the finish than I would like, but at the same time, a great wine in its own right. What do we got in the glass? 1955, which was a great vintage, apparently. And that day I wrote another apple pie baking spices style. Baking spices for sure. Apple I'm lost on. Touch of soap. I don't know what the hell that was. Maybe that was the glass. Relatively fresh red berry fruit. Tannic and long. That I think is still there. A real beauty, this one. But in a lineup of real beauties, I gave it 17.5. I'm super impressed with the old ones, how these 1920s stood up. Even 1890, which didn't just stand up, improved. over 3 or 4 days. If that's not the hallmark of a great wine, then I don't know what is. So, what do we got in the glass? There's a little celery for sure. Look at that color though. Nice depth to it. I'll give this another swirl because I think the cellar stank is coming out. Oh, Lord, what a nose. Now, you know, you've seen the wines I just drank. And just on the nose of this wine, I'm salivating. I'm literally salivating. And I'm using literally here. How is that possible after going through so many delicious, well-structured, wonderful, varied, different types of wines from eons ago, ages ago, literally. There's blood and meat in here, almost like a good Bordeaux, you know, an aged Bordeaux. Blood and meat. And then these, clove-like, very clove, very Christmas spicy. And the depth of this meatiness, the jus, that quality, the meat quality I keep returning to with these wines is just absolutely tremendous in this. It's so rich in this one. Okay. Biscuits, cough syrup, orange. Tobacco. But the length of this. If I was on about the length on the earlier ones, they had nothing on this. This is tremendous. This is morel mushroom, morels for sure. Even ceps, but yeah, there's a sharpness in the finish right now. There's a little rawness in the finish that there wasn't on the day, but there's a higher complexity to the mid palate that wasn't on the day as well. So 6 of one and a half dozen of the other. What day do you prefer? Oh my Lord. This is just a monstrous wine. It's fantastic. It's savory and it's sweet and it's biscuity and it's creamy and it's sharp and it's all of these things all at once. There's some cheese, there's some marine, there's some tea, there's some licorice, it's almost like encapsulating everything I've drank up till now. It's very cigar box. Very, very, it's the Lafite of these wines, you know? That's how I describe it. I think it's Lafite. Anyway, what is it? Wine number 10, 1947. Come on, dude. Nose I recognize. I thought rosewater on the day. Stewed rhubarb, butterscotch, yes. Some celery, but I think it's just more the complexity of the flavors. Glorious palate. Sweet red Twizzlers. Yeah, that's always kind of how it comes out when you're talking about like almost the cough syrup cherry flavors. Some bite and tannin, yes, but as part of the mix, why not? Very complex. I would say. The most complex of the wines I've had so far. And the longest finish so far of this flight, of the wines I've had in here. I don't know about that, because I think some of the wines have at least matched the finish. Well, I can make some arguments for others. But I gave it 18, which was my highest score so far. It's definitely contender for one of the wines of the tasting. In my book, 1947. Kaboom! Yeah. All right, next one. A little paler, I would say, in color. Like, look at this. Still very sherry-like. The previous was darker. Definitely darker. With a bit more red tints to it. This is a little lighter, a little more subtle, quite spirity on the nose and sherry-like. Very sherry-like. There's a nice kind of tobacco undertone, cigar, very cigar undertone to it. But it lacks mid-palate presence, actually, this wine does. Compared to the others, right? You know what I mean? We're in the middle of I was just in the presence of greatness, and then this has got to follow it. Still a very good wine. Still a very good wine. Has biscuit and cream. It's quite soft. Bit of a sneaky kind of length, you know? I mean, it's a soft length, so it's a passive wine. It's not a wine that sort of stomps in the room and says, ta-da, I am here. It's more a wine that sort of sneaks in the room, is in the corner, and then says, hey, I've got a trick to show you guys. You know, I mean, it does have tricks to show you. It has a sneaky length. It's very long on the finish, which I didn't note on the day. I know I didn't note this wine's finish on the day because, I mean, you know, especially this half of the session 2 was just so strong. It has a real persistence, not drive, but persistence. I could drink that wine all day long. I really like it. I like it now. I thought it was too soft or too, characterless. Wine 11 was 1945, and at the time I wrote celery root, spirity, more nail polish to it, almost whiskey, some burnt match and maple sugar, lacks the length of others. And I only gave it 14.5. And I'm going to say this. Celery root I can get behind a little bit. Spirity I would tone down, and nail polish I would definitely tone down, because I think it's become much more balanced, much softer, and much more sort of accessible. You know, I mean, it is. I remember when I was a kid, I went maple sugar twisting in the snow. You know, where you take the sugar, you wrap it around a stick, and then you stick it in the stove and harden it, and then you can suck on it. Delicious. If you're Canadian, you know what I'm talking about, or at least from Ontario and Quebec. Anyway, the almost whiskey part, a little bit, because it has that kind of burnt sort of savoriness to it. Maple sugar, yes. Lacks the length of others. Hell no. I take that back by 100%. This was the sneaky length one. This was the one that it's very, I'm done. Or am I? You know, that kind of two-faced clown. Incredible. Really good wine. I only gave it 14.5. I'm going to give it 16.5 now. The 47 is much better. If you have to pick between 47 and 45, much better. The 47, I felt like I was in the presence of greatness. The 45, I think I'm in the presence of a very, very great wine. There's a difference. All right, let's move on to the last one. Wine 12, there's only one wine left. If you've been playing bingo and following along, then you probably know what the vintage is. Here we go. A little bit, definitely a lot more red to it. But still, almost like blood orange red. super, super tea. Big, big time tea in this. The depth of this wine is just so insane because it's so high toned it's so high acidity at the beginning. So the fruit is still very lively and fresh. And then it just goes right into the Mariana Trench of flavors. Tea and darkness, dark plum and cloves and star anise. And it's a monster wine. This is a monster wine. Fantastic. Because there's many layers to this wine. It's multiple layers. It's like a millefeuille of wine. But all of it very pleasant because the fruit overlaps everything, So there's no, even though it's quite high spirited, it's subdued by the sweetness of the fruit that's still very, very energetic and alive and happy to be around. And the tannin is the way you expect tannin to be, kind of dry and hard a little bit on the end, and But again, because of that fruit overlapping, the notes, it's a symphony. It's a symphony. This is symphonic wine. It has so many things going on. I love it. I think this is a strong wine. It was the 1963, which I correctly guessed, and I correctly guessed it based on color. Glorious nose, also apple pie, but there's a pear tart tatin. I would agree with that. Chocolate and General Exotica. The General Exotica was just simply because I couldn't, I can't isolate those layers and sort of explain them. Absolutely fantastic on all levels, and just the absolute longest of any of the wines. That I will tame down a little bit because I think some of these wines have somehow or other exploded into being, from a length perspective. It's a great 63. It's a tremendous finish to an unbelievable tasting. I gave it 19 points. A perfect wine to wrap this tasting up with. I'm just going to say remarkable consistency and quality to this. Surprising. I love the biscuity red thread through all of this. I love the meat jus red through all of this. I thought 63 was my favorite on the day, but the 47, the 55, the 75, the 20. Today, the 20, the 45. The 45 comes back into being very, very high up. Not 47 high up, but still, the 20 is just amazing. 75 and 55, I'm going to knock down the 75 a little bit. 94, the 90s were performing much better 3-4 days. That's not a huge surprise. 45 I had down as a disappointment, and because it came between 47 and 63. And as you've just heard, those were the last three wines. 45 really today just lifted itself up and said, I am at least as noble as the rest of these, and I will not be left behind. And I think it made its case for itself in flying colors. The 1890, I recognized in my notes on the day that it was probably pretty conservative. And, tasting it today, it was super conservative. It has better length and better presence than I thought it did. How it's managing to do that 4 days after it's been opened. Yeah, sure. If you can explain it to me, then I'm listening. That's it. Simply no outright bad wines here. Dow's is a fantastic port wine house. Thanks so much for watching. I hope it's of some use to you. You at least enjoyed it. Stay thirsty, and I hope I can do this again because I really enjoyed it. See you again.
Inte lätt. Nu vet jag inte ordningen. The order is probably a bit messed up.
It's okay. It doesn't matter. I've got it all in my notes. It's fantastic.